I'd like to talk about our motivation as an ambassador, as a disciple of Jesus now, and as it relates to evangelism, personal evangelism. On this picture, we can see in 2 Corinthians that Paul wrote that Christ's love compels us. Compels us to do what? It compels us to share the love of Christ with other people and the good news. And if I love Jesus, knowing that he first loved me and I received the benefits of his love for me, then that moves me to want to share him with others. Jesus said, if you love me, obey me. And as we saw in John also, the Gospel of John, Jesus said that this is how you show God that you're his disciples, by bearing much fruit. And so if I love him and obey him, and he's commanded me to make disciples in the Great Commission, going to all the world. We're going to talk about that in a little bit different framework down the road here, but that's the command. And so my motivation comes out of Christ's love for me, my desire to obey him, and it just comes out of gratitude. I mean, if I understand what God has done for me, how can I just hide that from myself? It would be, not sharing it with others would be like, walking out of my house and seeing my neighbor's house on fire. And it isn't totally consumed yet, but I can tell it's obviously on fire. And I know the family's there because the cars are still in the parking lot. And I just stand out in front, and then some other neighbors gather, and we say, hey, their house is on fire, and they're inside. But we don't do anything to let them know their house is on fire. We don't go bang on the door, hit the doorbell, or honk the horns in the car, or bust the door open. They could be sleeping. Or it'd be like watching a family, if we're having a picnic alongside a river, and a family's coming along, husband and wife and their couple kids in the canoe, and we know right ahead down the river a little ways is a waterfall. A deep waterfall. Family doesn't obviously know that, but we just sit there talking to each other and say, those guys are going to go for the waterfall. It's going to kill them. And we don't say anything. We don't say, hey, stop, get over here. There's a waterfall down ahead. There's no warning, there's no nothing. We just sit there and watch them. You couldn't do that. Romans 5:5 says, God's love has been poured into our hearts, not just to contain there, but to spread out and to share it. And we do that as we share the gospel. I want to share an illustration with you that sort of talks about our motivation again. A doctor comes home from work one day, and his wife informs him that she just discovered that their neighbor has stage 4 cancer. And he's shocked. He's just disheartened because he had no idea. Neither of them did. And that was one of his specialties, was taking care of cancer people. So he immediately asked his wife, would you fix a pot of your special homemade chicken noodle soup, and I can take that over, as soon as you have it ready. And so she gets it ready quickly, and then before he leaves, he goes to he has a little medicine refrigerator he keeps in the house there, and he pulls out a vial of the cure that he's confident is the cure for this man's cancer. Puts it in his pocket, takes the pot of soup and goes over to the neighbor's house, knocks on the door, and the wife greets him. And he hands her the pot of soup and explains for her husband. And she takes to the kitchen and then escorts him into the bedroom. And he goes in and he greets the man. He knew him. I hadn't seen him for a while, though, and he shakes his hand carefully with him and sits down next to him. And he said, no, I'm just so sad. I'm disheartened to hear what you're going through. I didn't know. I can't believe it. I don't know why I didn't know this, but I didn't. How did all this happen? So he asks him the story about it, how he discovered he had it and what treatments he'd been under. And then he said, oh, God, I'm just so sorry to hear this. And he said, is there anything I could do to be of help to you? And the man says, well, maybe you noticed my yard has just fallen apart out there. The plants are dying and the lawn needs mowing. I got weeds all over the place. Doctor said, don't worry about it. Tomorrow, Saturday, my sons and I, we're going to come over here. We're going to clean that whole thing up. We're going to mow it and to trim it. And we're going to get some new flowers to plant out there. It's going to be beautiful by the late afternoon. The man says, well, you may have noticed it coming in, but my wife told me the front door is falling off its hinges. Doctor said, don't worry about it. We'll get some new hinges for you tomorrow at the hardware store, and we'll have that fixed. And the doctor says if there's anything else you need help with, transportation, getting some groceries, getting kids to school, taking you to appointments, whatever it is, you let us know. We're here to help you. And the doctor again expresses his sympathy for the man and said, now before I go, could I just pray for you? And the man wasn't a real man of prayer in the past, but he said, yeah, that'd be fine. So he prays for him and he says amen. And then he dismisses himself and says, I'll see you tomorrow. We're working on your yard here. And he goes home. And so the observation is rather interesting. What's wrong with that story? The vial. Did the man need somebody to come and show compassion for him? Of course he did. Did he need something to eat to nourish him? Yes. Did he need somebody to help him do the things he couldn't do anymore? Definitely. Did he need somebody to offer more help? Did he need somebody to pray for him? Of course he did. But he needed the vial. And, I'm guilty of this over the years of my life. There have been times I've done this, and I've seen churches do this. We do a lot of nice things for people, help them. But if we don't give them the vial, that's what they need. They need our kindness and our help and all these other things we do. But if we do all those things and don't give them the vial, we've really not helped them very much. If he dies without the vial, and the vial in our case is Jesus. If we do all kinds of good things for people, but we don't have the motivation, the desire, say, I'm not done yet. I haven't finished until I really, in a respectful, gentle, thorough way, share Jesus with you. I haven't done what I've been called to do as an ambassador and in the Great Commission. So there's where my motivation comes from. Do I really care about the other people? Do I love God, and do I love them?